For the few moments I do have, I would like to tag this message as it counts. It counts. So often we approach life and we approach many different situations trying to figure out what really matters. If you're like me, you may have a calendar and you're trying to keep up with all of the appointments and the things that you are being asked to do. As I was preparing for this upcoming week, one of our great leaders called me and she was sitting in the office and she said, "Pastor, how many meetings have you had today?" And at that moment in the afternoon, to be honest with you, I could not remember. So I went into my calendar and I said, "Oh, I'm on meeting number 6. We're having a great day." And to be honest, as things are placed on the calendar, it's often now where I've started to having to adjust the timing of the meetings. See, with all of these Apple devices, it automatically sets up for 1 hour. But I've realized that some things just don't take that long. For some meetings, for it to count, 15 minutes is really a great time. For some meetings, it requires 30 minutes, and Lord knows for some it may just take 2 hours. But one thing that I've realized is that for the work to get done, we must be concerned on what counts. Oftentimes now, many are trying to figure out in their schedules and in their daily life if church counts. I mean, we have now approached a society where everything happens on Sunday. The best brunches are on Sunday. And if you're in the capital city and you're part of the brunch team, you know that the best time to get there is 10:45. To be there when they open. And for those who are looking for the bottomless experience, you know that some, can I be honest? We know that for some that it's based on a period, an hour of timing. And so we know that you have to get there at a certain amount of time so you can get all that you've paid for. I guess I'll preach that for someone else. But what we do know is that regardless, if you're trying to hop in the line to get brunch and to get those things that you desire, it's really about the timing. It's about if you can place yourself in the right place. And for some reason, we find our society now has no reverence for the Sunday morning hours. See, there was a time where there was no baseball practice on Sunday morning. The weight room was not available for football on Sunday. But now it seems that Sunday is just a regular day. And even the Sunday morning hours seem to be open opportunities for everything else to be done. We've reached a time where we have a society and we have children that are growing up. To some of them, as it was shared in Sunday school, have not been required to learn anything besides their own names. We've reached a society where grandmothers and grandfathers are so cool that they're not concerned with teaching the lessons that they were taught. We've reached a day when parents are trying to do the best that they can, but they're shuffling their professional lives and they're shuffling their personal responsibilities, not alone to be asked for a church position. We've reached a day where I would dare to say, in the dialogue that I had even this week, someone shared, "What do you do?" And I said, "Oh, I'm a pastor of Metropolitan." they said, wow, do you think that industry is going to be around for a while? And it took my breath away in that moment, and I said, what do you mean? He said, well, most individuals, particularly those now, Pastor, who are professionals, prefer to click on YouTube and on social media to be able to grasp the part of service that they need. He said, are you not aware that there are worship videos if you need some worship? He says, are you not aware that there are sermons that are online? And some of them are actually really good, he said. He said some would prefer to be watching the sermons of those who they know are going to get them exactly what they need. He says, Pastor, we're not in a society anymore where you're just waiting to see what the pastor's going to preach on Sunday, and you're praying that God would impact to the pastor so that you would get a word to go forward. He says, Pastor, we can Google if we need hope. We can Google if we need patience. He says, is your industry going to be around for a while? And I thought to myself, I wonder if your industry is going to be around for a while. So in my retort to that, I shared with them that even banks that hold billions of dollars have found themselves with closed doors. Even those who have billions of dollars and millions in venture capitalist metrics have found themselves in the line to even try to get a check. So I shared with him that I was not concerned with the industry. But what I am concerned is with the people. I believe that we've reached a day that the human is entering in a space where I believe that we are decaying. I knew I wouldn't get any amens in this message. I truly believe that if there was a recipe that our grandparents taught us, we don't have all the ingredients anymore. I truly believe that we're trying to make things, we're trying to get to this next step, but there's some parts that we've missed because we are not in true relationship with God. I would dare to say this morning, and I'll make it plain, my mother, every Christmas growing up, would make fruitcake cookies. And I don't know if you don't know about a fruitcake cookie, but it's not like a cake, but it's all the value of a fruitcake just in a cookie. You can take them around, and I would put them in my book bag, and I would share them with my friends, and you know, it was just a great time because I had those fruitcake cookies. I've consumed a host of those fruitcake cookies. I was even growing up was able to tell Mom when they were the best and when I think they was missing something. But you know, I tried to make those fruitcake cookies. I had eaten them year after year. I had even helped my mom to be able to bake them. But when I made the fruitcake cookies, Brother Jenkins, they didn't taste the same. Something was missing. So I began to go to Google and try to Google out what was missing in the cookies. And so I tried to add some honey into the recipe. That sure enough wasn't it. I thought they didn't have the right texture. And so Google told me that maybe I need to add some extra flour. So I tried some flour. That definitely wasn't it. It said that the texture just wasn't right. And another article said that maybe you need to add eggs to the recipe. So I added the egg to the batter. And I baked those, and it still didn't come out right in the basket. The cookies didn't taste the same, but I had eaten the cookies year after year after year, and I had even helped assemble the cookies. But they still didn't taste right. After going to school for a whole bachelor's degree for 4 years and a master's degree, spending time with Greek and Hebrew, I still can't make the fruitcake cookies. And I don't know what's wrong with my recipe for the fruitcake cookies. But one thing I know is that they don't taste like mama's. Because something is missing. And I know that my fruitcake scenario, my story on those fruitcake cookies may not connect to you, but I believe that there's some things that we have not taught our children that they're missing in their life right now. I believe that society has gotten to a space where we can't even talk about the widow's mite is because we are not in relationship with God. Church, community has become optional. Pastors have become chief funeral workers. And now, occasional for weddings. Society's found out that you can take a class on the internet in less than 5 minutes, and you can do weddings now. And so now they've decided that they don't even need the pastor for the wedding, and they barely need us for a funeral. We've moved to a day that having a personal relationship with God is no longer a priority. And I know some will push back and say, well, Pastor, I can know God and not sit in the pew. Yes, I believe that you can know him, but I will tell you that the recipe that you will cook will not taste the same. See, when life gets hard, you sometimes need to be in the community of faith and believers. To be able to have that day when you're questioning God, God, why am I going through this? And you can be able to ask your neighbor, how did you make it through? See, when this widow goes in this scenario, Jesus is very clear to call the disciples in for a teaching moment. The passage has no power and is not able to do any good unless the disciples were available to learn. I would dare to say the disciples were in a posture of being in school, because Jesus pulls them in and he formalizes a question, but he tells them just very clearly, truly I tell you, the poor widow has put in more. Some of us can't get to the passage because we're not in relationship. The widow, regardless of her age, regardless of her condition, she understood that there was something that she could give. And I know some would say, well, Pastor, I have arthritis. I can't give anything. Pastor, I've lived and I've already done that. I can't give anything. But I want you to see in the text that God is able to see a value in the widow's mite, in less than a penny. And the widow is able to give. Because not only does it matter, but it counts. We must ask ourselves in this Lenten experience, what are we counting in our lives? What are we doing to not only just show up, but to ensure that our children's children will be able to call upon the name of the Lord when things get hard and in celebration? What are we doing to ensure that when things are in celebratory mode and when they're getting those promotions and they're walking across the stage and when we're having all of these great things happening, that they understand that if it was not for God who was working on the inside of them, that skill and that degree wouldn't mean a whole lot. If it had not been for the God that cares for you to be able to help them get to that point, that they would not be experiencing the joys of the moment. I'm thankful that with the widow's mite, we're able to see that God is willing to evaluate us all individually. That it's not about just being on the team. And I know we give participation trophies away now. If you're just on the team, you get the award. But in this passage, it's a reminder that there's an individual score that God is taking an account for. I went bowling a couple of weeks ago, and as I was bowling, I thought I was really good until the other person started bowling. He rolled a strike on the first one he threw. And I should have known, Brother Vardo, that it was a problem because he brought his own ball. He brought his own ball to the bowling alley. And I said, "Where did you get one of those from?" He said, "I got it out of my car." So while I was picking my ball, he was choosing which one he was going to bowl with. And then I had to get in the line to get the shoes. And he already had shoes. So I should have known that something was up. But one thing that was clear to me was that regardless of the items that I tried to do, it was clear that he was experienced and he had invested in the game. See, for me, it was just a moment of fun. And for him, it was a time to whoop up on me. The scoreboard was very clear. It had Richard. It had him. Everyone could see my score. And they said, "He's really beating up on you," as people came by. And they were admiring his strikes. And they began to compliment and said, "Hey, man, have you done some tournaments?" He said, "Of course." And my eyes just got even opened a little bit bigger. I said, this was a setup. But what was interesting enough is that as he continued to play and as he continued to do the work, it was clear an investment had taken place. I thought to myself, maybe I just needed to buy some shoes and I could have been able to bowl like him. And maybe if I would have been able to have one of those nice bowling balls, that I would have been able to bowl like him. So I asked him, "Can I borrow your ball? Because I want to throw a strike too." And I threw that ball, and it went right to the gutter, all the way down. And he says, "Man, it's not about the ball. It's about what you can do." And in the passage of the widow's mite, the Lord is not concerned about the suit on the car, what people think they know about us, what we show to them. But God is concerned is on what we're willing to do for his glory. So let us be reminded that it all counts to God.